Oh, I'm gonna need something more in that cup. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. I'm sure.
She's trying to get the meeting started.
Yeah. Well, close. I understand.
Me too.
Rise to the pledge of allegiance.
Two flags.
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman DeGroot,
Present.
Councilwoman Hayner. Councilman Corretto is excused, Supervisor Quigley,
Here. Thank you
and
very
Councilman
much.
Van Cleek.
Thank you very much and welcome to the Town of Ulster Town Board Workshop Meeting for Thursday, August 1st. Additions or changes to the agenda? I have one item. It is in relation to the EMS services that have assembled here tonight. We will put them on the first item of new business so that the speakers can address the town board on the issues of the ambulances in the town. Public or discussion on agenda items. Are there anyone here tonight? Please come to the podium. Speak about items on the agenda. Laura?
I have two questions related to the discussion that we just heard, which was really great. Thank you. Can you remind us where that small water tower is? That,
Right next to the highway garage?
okay. And the other one is Xena Development. Have they presented a revised application yet?
There was a revised application? No, there was supplemental materials that were received by email yesterday.
Oh,
That have been forwarded to the town clerk to be posted on the town's website tomorrow morning.
thank you.
Any additional comments from anyone here on agenda items? Communications, Ms. Reevy?
My office received a letter on July 29th, 2024 from the New York State Department of Transportation. Dear Suzanne Reevy, thank you for your correspondence to the New York State Department of Transportation dated April 19th, 2024. Your correspondence has been assigned to the Regional Traffic and Safety Group and given the tracking number T24-107. The request from the town of Ulster was to change the existing yield control to a stop control on Town Hall Drive at its intersection with Route 209 westbound exit ramp. A formal investigation regarding the town's request has been completed. NYSDOT found it appropriate to change the existing yield control to a stop control. NYSDOT maintenance will schedule the necessary sign and pavement marking changes. This work will be completed this construction season. Very truly yours, Mark Morano, Assistant Engineer.
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Committee reports, Parks and Recreation.
I'll do Parks and Rec because Rocco couldn't be here tonight. We've had way more positive comments than negative about the parks as far as the conditions go. There have been concerns brought to our attention. The most significant being the maintenance of the porta potties within the park. But I do know that everyone involved is working to try to remedy these problems. We don't, at this point, don't feel it's the fault of the company, don't feel it's the fault of the town. There's just been very poor timing consequences dealing with when they've been used, and we have some issues with some larger groups that have made that a problem. Other than that, I don't know about summer camp, but does, Sue, do we know? that- Okay. Okay. Okay, and then Frank, is that, everything's fine on your end? And I believe staffing has been fine this summer. We've not had a problem with the staff, any staffing issues this summer for the park staff, from what I understand. So I think everything is good.
You want to keep going, finance?
Sure, go to the next one, finance. That's the committee I do chair and I have notes about it. Mary Ann and I are on the finance committee. We work closely with you as a supervisor and with Toshka as our comptroller. We want to start right out with, we are very pleased that Toshka has a very good handle on the regular finances of the town. So thank you very much. And any question we've asked has been answered in a timely manner. Right now, a couple things we're looking at is the streamlining of the voucher. We're not looking at something that she had already put in place, is the streamlining of the voucher PO system. And that has gone well. As far, have you heard, is there, unless it was something came in the last week, we think it's gone well.
Just the voucher system. So
Yeah,
that's fine. We haven't really gone to the field part that
Okay.
we're talking about.
but
Just the voucher system.
that got smooth. Okay, good. You changed it to bi-weekly checks, correct? Yep. We are reviewing the way payroll information is gathered, that being the time clocks, time cards, things people are doing. We looked with systems that can integrate with the KVS accounting. That was a criteria we had, that they would integrate with KVS accounting, because that's where our payroll is processed. We've looked at a couple of companies. Toshka is in the process now of talking with department heads about what that implementation would look like if it were done, so that then we can come back with a proposal to the board, one way or the other. So, no concrete's been poured, no contracts signed. We're just doing all the research to find out. Another one of our goals with that is that it would be cross-trainable. That was, I think, was something we were very concerned about, so that because our payroll is bi-weekly, and I think the hours are reported through Friday or Saturday, and then they are processed on Monday for Tuesday. It's a very fast turnaround. So we're trying to make sure not only are we coming up with a system that could help with that, but also have a capturing program that will not hinder the process, but would make it long-term even easier and more, not that there's any accuracy problem, but easier to keep accurate, and would also be trainable to other people that work in the office so that it can be cross-trained. No sense training in what we do now, if we're looking at something else. We have been doing some spot checks, reviews on expenditures. We can't do them all at once, but since we now have a comptroller, we don't have to sign off on everything and do that review every month. So what we do is our controller does that, and then what we're doing is asking for different sections to get the financial part, and then we do spot checks on that. And then we did confirm that all the fund balances are securely deposited, or whether they are in the regular accounts or CDs or whatever, with the bank and with others, the supervisors got them, they're all in really safe hands. So I think, do we have anything more as finance committee that you think of?
I had two questions. What I'm gonna do is compile a list of like 5, and then I'll ask them all at once, okay? Thanks.
Buildings and grounds?
Except for right now, we're looking at possibly changing the floor now in the courtroom. That's still up for discussion. We're not sure yet. I know that there's a few things that I'm just going to tell and change right there. So I'm gonna make sure I get on that this week. And as of right now, everything else is straight. But I'm not the only one.
Personnel?
I was not aware that.
Councilman Van Cleek's over here.
I'm sorry.
Too much time at the pool today.
All right, let me add something on personnel. Town of Ulster is a participant in the Ulster County Civil Service system. That means for competitive class jobs, we are required to follow their recommended employee list, which comes about from exams. We are having problems, as are most communities around the county, with the county civil service office in getting the results of the exams on a timely basis. And it is impacting our ability to hire. We have in the supervisor's office, after he consulted with the personnel committee last week, authorized the posting of job openings throughout the town so that we can start the process and be prepared for hiring when we get the answers from civil service. Mr. Kovacs, did you get a chance to make the phone call that I had asked? It's in progress. Okay. That concludes committee
Well,
reports.
with the personnel committee, also, just so the board knows, I have continued and nothing has been completed by working with the department heads on their agreements, and I've also forwarded everything, copied the supervisor on what was talked, what's being worked on with our attorneys. So that is in progress. And the same being with the police chief and the lieutenant. They all still have time on their contracts, but it's time to start talking about those. So I've got those documents in process. I'll make sure that you and Rocky get the copies of that.
That concludes our committee reports.
So-
We will move forward with the public hearing at 7:10. May I have Mr. Kovacs, the reason for this public hearing, please?
Yes, this is a public hearing on a special use permit for a proposed cell tower. Under our town code, cell towers require site plan approval from the planning board and a special permit of the town board.
May I have a motion to open the public hearing? Second,
I'll second that.
all those in favor, aye. Ladies and gentlemen, the public hearing for the special use permit for the proposed cell tower at 434 Flatbush Road is now open. If you have a comment that you wish to make, please come to the podium. State your name, your address, and please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Anyone on the proposed cell tower?
Make a motion to close the public hearing for the.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Under new business, there going to be an insertion in the agenda to give Chief Hepner, on behalf of the town of Ulster Emergency Services, the privilege of the floor, discuss the situation in the town in relation to EMS and ambulance response. Chief Hepner?
Good evening. How's everyone? My name's Sean Hepner, Fire Chief of Ulster Hose Company number 5. As you all heard, I'm here tonight to voice my concerns about the ambulance crisis in the town of Ulster, which we all know about. On behalf of the officers and members of Ulster Hose Company number 5 and many other first responders, as you see, many years our fire department and the public have been fortunate to have reliable and professional ambulance service in this town. However, in the past year, the quality of the services has deteriorated significantly. This decline is not only taxing our emergency responders, but more importantly, it's putting lives at risk due to the lack of availability of ambulances and increased response times. The situation has created potential life-threatening circumstances for patients who need prompt transportation to the hospital. Here's a little data for the first half of 2024, January to July. There are 1,162 EMS calls within the town of Ulster in that time. The Ulster Hose Fire District responded to 944 of those calls. The primary commercial ambulance failed to respond to those calls, 49 calls for service. That's 5.2%. With that being said, another agency had to be called in for these cases and these calls. In other parts of the town, there was 218 calls for service. The commercial agency failed to respond 19 calls. That's 8.7%. Another agency had to be called for every one of these calls. And it's crucial to note that relying on other agencies impacts the emergency response capabilities of neighboring municipalities. The current EMS system in the county is town-based, designed to handle call volumes within specific jurisdictions and provide mutual aid when necessary. However, the assistance provided over the past year has not been reciprocal, straining the system miserably. While an EMS agency eventually responded to all 68 calls in our district, the response times were significantly extended. In many cases, patients were forced to wait 40 minutes or longer for an ambulance. So let me be a little clear here. The situation is absolutely unacceptable. During medical emergencies, every minute counts, and the extended wait times are putting our community members' lives at risk. These extended wait times are not merely an inconvenience. They can mean the difference between life and death in critical situations. Our town deserves better. EMS must be patient-centric, reliable and sustainable system, ensuring we are not leaving our citizens vulnerable and our neighboring towns' resources stretched thin. We all know that our town is growing, and with the future projects in store, the services are going to be needed much more. I'm urging the town to take action to address the crisis and restore the level of emergency medical care that our community both expects and deserves. With that being said, July 1st to present, there's been 16 calls that they were unable to respond to that we had to wait for mutual aid. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me here tonight, and hopefully we can get this situation taken care of.
Chief Hepner, someone told me the other day that there was a call in Ulster County where they actually medevaced the patient out because of the unavailability of an ambulance. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that, but it makes a lot of sense right now. And other districts that are farther out than what we are waiting a lot longer than we do, when there's not an ambulance available. But as we all know, a lot of towns around us and the city of Kingston, they put their own ambulance service in service because of this issue. The biggest reason I'm here tonight is because it's getting worse. It's not getting better. And it taxes the volunteers, it taxes the EMS services, it taxes everybody that's standing behind me. It could be one of us that's in this situation that needs this ambulance, and you know what I'm talking about. So hopefully we can come up with something after we leave here tonight. I'm available. Everybody that's in our department and all the other departments, we're up to help out, whatever we have to do, but we definitely need something done here.
Are there any suggestions as to partial solutions from you or any other chief or any other member of the EMS community?
I think that should be a talk for after this meeting. To be honest with you, there's got to be some situations are different, but I believe this town needs some sort of ambulance service, either a contract or go to the county and see what the county's thinking with their services. Maybe they could help out, but it's not just the town of Ulster, but we are under gun here.
Okay.
Chief, I have a question. Like, within the last year, I think I attended one of the EMS meetings where there used to be a representative from the ambulance company that came to those meetings.
Yes, exactly.
That's not happening anymore.
They're not part of they would be invited, but it's a commercial ambulance service.
Yeah.
It's not a townwide ambulance service.
What I meant was, so what I was questioning is, I know you were trying to talk with them. Has that gotten anywhere? Is conversation with them better or worse?
There's been multiple conversations with the ambulance service that we deal with, our primary ambulance service.
And that is who?
That's Empress,
Mhm.
which was Mobile Life.
Yep.
And there's been many talks with other agencies also, but there really is nothing set in stone right now with a fix. So
A lot of talk, no action at this point.
exactly.
Are there any other members of the fire community here that want to speak tonight on this issue? Mr. Molinaro?
I think we're good.
John Quick?
Good. Let them come up.
Come on up, John Quick.
My name is John Quick. I live on 20 Spring Lake Drive in Kingston, New York. I'm a member of the Spring Lake Fire Department. I'm also the Town of Ulster Emergency Services Meeting Facilitator. And I do make one comment to Councilman Van Cleek. When Hudson Valley was involved, they were invited to our emergency services meeting. I don't have those contacts yet for Empress to invite them, but they will be. I just want to make mention of one thing. During the COVID crisis, our state governments allowed it that, EMS was, as well as police and other emergency services, were an essential service. Since 2021, all of the emergency services within New York State have tried to have the New York State legislature delegate, or what you might say, make EMS as an essential service within New York State. So although they said it was an essential service, EMS in New York State is not an essential service. What I tell some of my friends and some of my neighbors is that when they call 911, believe it or not, we should maybe have an expectation of ever seeing an emergency response from anyone, because it's not essential. So what I'm trying to say is I would encourage the town board to talk to the county legislators and talk to the state legislators, and please have them designate EMS as an essential service. There were 2 bills that were introduced this year. They were dropped at the 2 days before the session ended, and 2 additional new bills have been introduced by the same sponsors. It passed the Senate, died in the Assembly like normal. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Quick, could you take and provide the supervisor's office, since you are involved in the state agency or the state association, with information as to the state association's position on this matter, along with the sample letters that they may have used in their lobbying efforts, as well as the legislation?
We can do that, yes. We have our legislative committee for the Association of Fire Districts of the state of New York. I am the Region 2 Director for Ulster, Columbia, Greene, and Schoharie County, and I serve on that committee as well.
Thank you. Mr. Molinaro.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Molinaro. I reside at 406 Warren Street with my wife, 2 young kids in the town of Ulster. And I am currently a firefighter and EMT with the Ulster Hose Fire Company. I've been an active member for 22 years, an EMT for 19, and a part of the department as a whole for 38, as my father is a 40-year member and EMT. And most importantly, for the past 10 years, I had the honor and privilege to be an assistant fire chief and an EMT, and was in charge of the EMS program for Ulster Hose. I had the opportunity to teach, be taught, and train some of the best EMTs and firefighters around. I'm standing before you because I'm a proud EMT and want to show my support for the officers and members of Ulster Hose and their continued struggle with the EMS in the town of Ulster. Beginning in the late 70s into the early 80s, the members of Ulster Hose Company No. 5 started responding to oxygen calls in the community. Soon after, adding CFRs, EMTs, and a defibrillator to their response, and have taken their response and equipment to new levels over the last 40 years. To this day, the members and EMTs continue to provide medical care to the town of Ulster and surrounding communities. Currently, Ulster Hose provides top-notch service to the community with 20 New York State certified EMTs, and the majority of its 90 active members are certified in CPR, AED, first aid, Narcan, and stop the bleed. We respond to a large variety of tier 2 life-threatening calls. All of our engines, tower ladder, and support vehicles carry an AED, a full complemented oxygen bag, which are stocked to treat anything from a cut to an amputation, difficulty breathings, cardiac arrests. We also carry Narcan, glucose, glucometry tools, pulse oxes, cyano, of course, oxygen, and a variety of tactical equipment to respond to active shooters. No matter what time or day of night it is, Ulster Hose is willing to respond. We're ready and able to assist the community. Over the last 40 years, the growing number of calls for service to our department as a whole has tremendously grown. But calls for service for basic and life-threatening medical calls has grown as well. With that, the members and EMTs of Ulster Hose are becoming tired, worn out, and they're beginning to feel helpless if they can't get up and respond to calls. You have to remember, all of the members are volunteer and are leaving their families, friends, their parties, their gatherings to come out and help the public. We don't care though. For us to have to sit and wait anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour for a BLS or ALS ambulance or even a fly car to respond makes us feel helpless, makes the patient feel helpless, and it makes our job even harder when we have to sit there and explain to the families why there's no one else there to give them more help or to give them transport to the hospital. We are lucky that the officers and members, the EMTs, the fire commissioners, the fire company board, and the town board all can work together properly and provide each other with support and the equipment needed to get these jobs done. But more importantly, we have the constant cooperation, support, and understanding from the community. You can guarantee that no call will go unanswered and help will always be on the way. The EMS system nationwide is broken. It's overwhelmed, overworked, underpaid, and unfortunately, it's mostly abused. People are calling 911 for a variety of reasons that are not acceptable and that may not need the service of a full ambulance. Some of these may be rides to the hospitals, headaches, stubbed toes, trips or falls that may not need that attention, evaluations, psychiatric emergencies. Unfortunately, there are not enough available units designated to handle all of these calls, not only in Ulster County and the town of Ulster, but nationwide. As I mentioned, I was directly involved in the EMS program and decision-making at Ulster Hose for over 10 years and have watched the outside transporting agencies' responses decline in response time, availability, unqualified manpower. And I fortunately had the opportunity to be involved in some of the initial meetings with the town of Ulster, Ulster Hose, and the Empress/Mobile Life outgoing crew, and with Ulster County. So some notable dates and information that I have. I don't have the exact date, but midsummer of 23, myself, the new Empress Director of Operations, Supervisor Quigley, and Ulster Hose Commissioner Jim Bracco met here in Supervisor Quigley's office. We did a meet and greet. We were introduced to each other and we kind of gave our expectations to each other. The director told us that nothing will be changing as far as response, manpower availability, or the way things will be operating in the town. However, with that being said, at that time, the level of response, care, and situations that Mobile Life were putting us in were not that great. So that wasn't really that good of an answer to us. And most importantly, they told us they weren't leaving the area. On November 22nd of 2023, we met with Empress, the Director of Operations, and myself, and a couple of members from our department, including some EMTs, told us again that nothing was changing. They weren't leaving the area. They were waiting to see what Kingston Fire does. That was going to be their big decision-making on what was going to be able to be available. They guaranteed that 8 ambulances were available countywide. They told us that there was no need for a contract to come forward through the county or through the town of Ulster, that the call volume was there, meaning that the town of Ulster did not have to pay Empress to be available, that the call volume that they were responding to, that money that they were getting from those patients was satisfying their ability to be available in the town. The following week, November 27th of 23, myself, Chief Hepner, Ulster County Director Erickson, EMS Director Finity, and Deputy Director of Communications Cafaldo met at Ulster Hose headquarters. We were straight up told by the Director of Emergency for the county that no one has the responsibility for EMS anywhere in the nation. The town is responsible for providing police and fire services to their residents, depending on where their fire district or they're run by the town, but no one has the responsibility to provide EMS care. Empress told them, meaning Empress told the county, that there was 5 ambulances available in the county versus what they told us 8 a week earlier. The Director of EMS had built several plans out for her plan that she recently submitted to the public. She said that there was a need for a contract. And the new program that they were working on at the 911 center was providing priority levels for the emergency response. Right now, there's 3 different levels that are available, and that depends on who's dispatched to those emergencies. And they were trying to add in another one to take out some of the lack of responses. They're trying to set up automatic dispatches for volunteer ambulances, and they were up in the $1.2 million per ambulance to have a contract. And they also spoke about taxes and tax brackets for the town to discuss for them. One thing to note with a contract, from what I understand, is that if the town or municipality contracts an ambulance, that's one ambulance for the entire town. That doesn't necessarily, once that ambulance goes to a fire call in Ulster Hoses District, they don't get a backfilled ambulance in the town. So that ambulance is the only one. They could get it from another area, just like we do now, but just because you're guaranteed and you're paying for one ambulance doesn't mean you always have that one ambulance, if that makes sense. Since these initial meetings, there has been no additional meetings with the town, the county, or Empress, to my knowledge or with my involvement. Kingston Fire Department has their program up and running. There's still calls going on with extended responses, and no contracts are in place. Since there has been several town association meetings and other organizational meetings, town and county-wide, where directors and EMS management were requested and won't answer and will not, for answers and have not shown up. Not to keep rambling, but to conclude, the EMS system in Ulster County is broken. It starts with the 911 center, with their call taking, their EMD skills, to the dispatches, to the taxiing calls on volunteer ambulances and BLS fire departments, and into hospitals. Patients' lives are being jeopardized, first responders' time is being taken, and help is needed. Although it'll take more than this meeting and this information that we provided, but the volunteers from this town of Ulster are looking for your help, your guidance, your expertise to help us help you and help us help the community. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Molinaro, you
Yes,
made
sir.
reference to people that were invited to your meetings that did not respond or did not show up. What level of government were they associated with?
That would be the county level. And to add to Councilman Van Cleese, to the chief, in these town association meetings, we used to have a representative from Mobile Life come, who was one of their bosses, but he was also a fireman and a fire chief and another, so it benefited him as well. And once that transition happened, they never continued to send anybody. So there was representation at one point from the commercial ambulance, but there hasn't been since.
Communications not-
That's correct.
Any other individuals from the EMS community? Any further questions from the board?
Oh, boy, it's gonna be a long
Well,
discussion.
there's all of them here, so we have to pick
Well,
something.
First off, Comptroller DiNapoli published a report about 2 months ago that I forwarded to everybody via email that basically said this is a county-based responsibility for the purposes of the fact that Mr. Molinaro pointed out that if the town's contract for one ambulance and that one ambulance is dispatched, there is no availability from other communities to backfill. When you put a countywide system together, it introduces the economies of scale to spread out the ambulances across the district, and you're able to backfill when necessary. No different than what private ambulances do now when they cover a region. The problem that we have right now is that Diaz, which is Saugerties based, will only dispatch to the town of Ulster when they have availability. Northern Dutchess is the same. They will only dispatch to the town of Ulster when they have availability, and both of those would be dispatched under mutual aid. Northern Dutchess is currently applying for a certificate of need to establish a fixed base in Ulster County so that they could be first call dispatched, but they are not receiving the support of the community to expand their geographical area of service. There are many arguments being used against them, including the fact that there is a fixed number of EMTs and staff available to staff the rigs, and that any additional service area will demand new rigs, which means that the wage rates will go up and the people will be stolen from other agencies, which is what has been demonstrated when the city of Kingston implemented their fire department-based ambulance services. They were able to offer union wages, medical coverage, and state pensions. And they were able to draw a number of EMTs from the volunteer and private ambulance services around the area. This is a very complicated problem, and I'm not certain that a town-based ambulance district, which would, as I keep hearing, with the costs going up, I originally thought it was $1 million. Now I'm believing it may be closer to $1.5 million, and it will only guarantee us one ambulance, and that will not suffice for the number of calls that are generated townwide, let alone the Ulster district. So this is a discussion that we will be continuing.
You know, I just want to echo that we want to continue to be supportive, and we appreciate all the information. You all sent us some spreadsheets which helped to understand this, the impact of this. And now having the new numbers that you both presented, it does raise it to an elevation where the rest of the community will understand that this is really, really important. 5.2% doesn't mean much until you say that was 49 people. You know what I mean? So that helps people get a picture of it. But I do agree with what you're saying, Jim, about the need for it to be county-based. When you look at the efficiencies of scale, the city is getting by with it because they're a big concentration in that area. When you start looking at all of us as outlying towns, this has to be addressed in a broader way with all of the EMS in the town of Ulster, but all the surrounding towns. And it would encourage us all to really push at a county level that this get the rest. So from my limited knowledge over the last couple of years is that I think that our resolution will come at a county level. And I think we were at a meeting with the Town Board Association, and they were also, I think the Association of Towns, the speaker that spoke, he was also encouraging us to do this at a county level. So.
Chief Hepner, you mentioned some data through the end of July. Did that come from 911?
The data that I gave you is just for our district.
Or was
And
that
that is a going data that we do every day per call. So when we don't have a response, we have a spreadsheet.
Okay.
We fill it out.
So it's
and
your data, not the 911 center data.
yes, so that's excluding probably multiple other calls that we're not being dispatched to in other districts also.
Okay.
So-
Because when this topic first came up in May, I inquired and foiled 911 and got their data through the end of May, which I analyzed and distributed to you, the raw data, and I distributed the results to the town board. I'm going to go back and ask Everett to update
Yeah, that
the
was,
information. At that time, townwide, all districts, we were at 948 calls total. And that Ulster Hose represented a pretty big chunk. I think it was 750 calls out of the 948 at the time.
if
and
you'd
it-
like, I can give it to you.
Yeah, I'll
It's the
take that.
data
And
I have.
if you have a copy of your prepared marks that you could leave with Miss Reevy.
Could I also mention something? Go ahead.
Do this on the county level. The conflicts, like, do this.
Well, I think to this point, you recall what happened last meeting. Well, I think we had a problem with the roofing project that was going on at the building, and you brought it to our attention. We spoke about it at this meeting. People heard it. There were county officials here. The message got back. The Freeman produced an article about it, and the county moved. And they did something. I know the size is totally different, but what is the fact is that what you're doing tonight is getting the spark lit.
Yes.
Okay, and if we can keep fanning this fire, and if we can keep getting this promoted, this is where we can get the counties going on this. But then we have to be willing to be supportive with them and encouraging them, but also fanning the fire, because we need this, and we're going to continue to talk about this and throw it back at them, because they are where the answer is.
Are there any
Yeah, well, Jim, you're part of the,
association of
what do
supervisors?
you think about that too? They talked about the problem there. right?
Can we do that? John?
Okay, so I have a question here. Are there members of the audience here that were part of the county ambulance study? I heard a chuckle because we know what happened with that. It produced a report that was a regurgitation of what we already knew, and it was put out, I think, last year, and nothing has happened. That is the issue that we have spoken repeatedly about at the Ulster County Association of Town Supervisors. And the town supervisors from all over the county are equally frustrated with the fact that that study, which was an expensive study and went on for a long period of time, has not produced any results. And this matter continues to be talked about, but this matter is firmly in the control of the county executive's office.
Voters produce results.
Voters produce results. This is a
So that-
strategic,
I agree. So I'm encouraging this. We've got to, when you do studies like yours, like you said, Jim, I think it's a good point. That study did nothing. Well, get these people off the mark. There's articles in the paper, people saying something else, and this kind of attendance at a county meeting. And so if we can get that, if we can get some people at the county to sponsor this, this is where action happens.
well, I want to make everyone clear. I asked legislator Kovacs to carry to the legislative level a memorializing resolution supporting the certificate of need for Northern Dutchess Ambulance Services to come into Ulster County. That has been an unsuccessful effort up until now, because there is an impediment within the county government to solve this problem. They don't know where they're going, and they don't want to take and make a decision as it relates to Northern Dutchess that may impact the outcome of that discussion. Chief Cranston.
Good evening, John Cranston, Spring Lake Fire Department. I understand what you're saying, and I think your intentions are good, but the problem is if you move it out to the county level, unfortunately, nothing is going to change. Because if you listen to the calls that are going out there now, we are getting mutual aid calls from all over the county. If you make it a county-wide problem, we are still going to be trying to get mutual aid from all over the county. The problem is there are not agencies there. We can say that we will have mutual aid, but the problem is in most cases, except for the few paid the few paid ambulance services, the mutual aid are going to be volunteer firefighters. And the volunteer fighters are already stretched as far as they can stretch. And to expect them to now fill in for EMS calls virtually anywhere else in the county, the system is going to collapse. We simply can't do it. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the time to essentially take on a completely new job. Our department answers all EMS calls. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of being able to skim out the level ones to the level twos. If it's an EMS call, we are dispatched. It is getting harder and harder to get people to respond to these, and it is getting virtually impossible to get people to take the training. At this point, for the average citizen to take training for the fire department, and then in addition to that, take training to get certified in any EMS level, you're basically asking them to give up almost a year of their life. And in this day and age, that is unfortunately not a very good experience to get people to do that. They don't have the inclination, they don't have the time. It's just too big an investment for them. But moving it from local to town to county doesn't change anything. It simply changes, if you pardon the expression, it changes the bureaucracy from one that is responsive and interested in trying to get the problem solved to a bigger bureaucracy that really doesn't seem to give a damn one way or the other. So I'm not sure we're going to solve anything by moving it from local to county. I think it's going to be a matter of if it's going to happen, we're the ones who are going to have to do it. That's the easy part. I don't have an answer as to how to do it. But the fact of the matter is, moving it up to a bigger bureaucracy is not going to change anything. It's simply going to push the problem to a bigger group who has less desire to do anything about it than the local people do. You, as the local representatives, have a vested interest in this. We're your neighbors, your friends, your neck, whatever. The county doesn't know our fire department from Adam. They have no interest in what our problems are because we're a little bitty thing. They're a great big thing. They're not going to listen to us. Our biggest chance, our are the fire services, if you will. Biggest chance I feel is local. This is the place where we have a voice. This is a place where people are interested in getting a solution for this area. The county obviously is not interested in a solution for this area. So trying to move the problem up to them, I think is a dead horse. It simply is not going to solve anything. It's simply going to be, it gets lost in the paperwork.
Thank you for your input, Chief.
Yes, sir.
And
And pretty much everything on there. Second what I heard. But the county executive was the one pulling it off. She was there for 5 minutes and did not even state the question. So I don't know if that's gonna be.
Chief Keller, you have your hand raised. Come on up.
Just to piggyback on what Chief Cranston just said. There is an example of a town-wide system that's been in existence for decades that I would recommend the town of Ulster take a look at. The town of Colony has had an ambulance service in place for decades. It is very successful. And I honestly believe that you are barking up the wrong tree if you think the county is going to deal with this problem. It's just not going to happen in today's political climate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Mr. Long?
Thomas Long. I would like to reside at 96 Old King Sideway in Lake Katrine. I am a member of the Ruby Fire Department with honors. I'm the assistant chief and I've been EMT there for the last 22 years. And I've been EMT for 40 years. My first job as an EMT was in 1984, working for Doctors Ambulance on Coonkill Avenue, commercial ambulance. No 911 system, okay? No such thing as paramedics, okay? So I'm going to give the county the benefit of the doubt. We've come a long way in the last 40 years, but now we are going backwards, okay? Matt Marinow have covered most of everything. Now, we're a small district. We've had, my chief's back there, he can verify. We've had the last 7 EMS calls we had. One time we had Empress come in. 3 times we've had ambulances come from Marpletown. With all the equipment we have, with all the education, with all the training, and like Matt said, we learned from the best, our hands are tied. So what's going to happen one night, and God forbid, I hate for it to happen because I don't know if I'm going to live it myself. We're going to watch somebody die because we cannot get this person to a higher level of care or get a paramedic there to present this level of care. Something needs to be done. We've been barking with the county. They bark it back to you guys. You guys said it's a county problem. It's a problem, okay? You guys are the politicians here. You represent us voters, okay? What if something happened to one of you people, your mother or your father or your brother or your sister or one of your children, and an ambulance couldn't get to them and they die? Then what's going to happen? I think things are going to change. Somebody has to come together as a group. The town, you guys, the town representatives, the county representatives, us as the firefighters and the EMTs need to sit down and come up with some kind of solution. We're worried about money. How much increase on taxes will be if we have to pay somebody to come in here and supply us with commercial ambulance? Are we going to put a price on somebody's life to save a few taxpayer dollars? I can't live with that. I have nothing more to say.
Any additional comments?
So can I go back to the original question? What can we do? I think we should be firing on both fronts. I think we should be figuring out what would happen if we tried to do it locally, within this town and how we could do it, come up with a solution. And then also then be fighting at the county level to get it to be done, because I understand the political problem is the political problem, but I'd like to continue to push on that and expose that and try to get an answer. So if we do it at the town level and try to do it at the county level, and we'll see who gets there first. The city obviously did it, but do we know what that's costing them? Have we heard, or have they shared that, Jim? Have you?
Nope.
Okay. So.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming out.
Then ladies.
I think you all know my dedication because of my brother. And I appreciate what you do. Thank you. Moving on in our agenda, Chief Berardi explained the item, I'm asking for a motion to authorize the disposal after we declare surplus of the two police vehicles.
Good evening. These two vehicles, one's a retired detective vehicle and the other one is a seized pickup truck that we seized several years ago. The age of the vehicle and the maintenance required are getting more to upkeep than they are worth to keep at this point. So I'm looking to move ahead with selling them.
May I have a motion, please?
I make the motion.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Ladies and gentlemen, I presented here tonight a timeline for the awarding of the contract for the Orlando Street softball lighting project. Any questions that I can answer? Okay, so the next item is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign the ARPA subaward agreement between Ulster County and the town of Ulster in the amount of $100,000 and to declare the replacement of the field lighting a type 2 action under seeker. May I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
So move.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is a resolution authorizing the town to go out to bid for installation of the site lighting improvements and appurtenance to the Orlando Street softball field. May I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a discussion on the presentation of a petition by the residents of the Cherry Hill subdivision for the establishment of a sewer district. This petition was presented to the town board at a meeting back in June. This is similar to the situation that the residents in Cherry Hill faced with contaminated water throughout the 90s. Mr. Groot, this is a project that will necessarily require applications that have long periods of gestation for subsidy. So that is on the table, and let's have a discussion as to a course of action. There's something that, someone wants to make a motion to start.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion that we engage. First of all, I'll make the motion that I request from Bernier and Larios a fee for designing a plan, map, and report to prepare the documents that are required from an engineering point of view to move forward to the funding agencies so we can determine the availability of funding from other sources other than the town.
Okay.
We have a motion to accept what I've moved. Second,
Second.
any discussion?
One question we have on that, I think, the man who did our funding,
Second one
Oh.
after him, after Bernier and Larry's.
Okay.
They're tied together.
Okay.
Okay, we need one to get to the
Okay,
other. So may I, all those in favor of requesting from Bernier and Larios a proposal? Aye. Second would be to request from Mark Blauer a proposal to lay out a plan for accessing federal and state agencies to provide financing for this project.
and didn't he give us a heads up that this project would be challenged on that front because of the economics?
The normal programs that the town has accessed from small cities are income-based. This project would not qualify because of the income levels of the residents, but the original water district was financed through rural development, which is a federal agency
Okay.
that provided subsidies that we may have an ability to access. Now, this was 20-some years ago. The proposal would be to have Mr. Blauer give us a proposal for evaluating various options, including rural development as a source of funding and using the land map and report that is developed by Bernier and Larios as the basis for the application.
So it's okay, because I was concerned, that'll leave some of the concern, because I was concerned that this was barking up a tree that we weren't gonna be able to climb on.
No, we can get, I
Yeah.
think we can get to the money source.
Okay,
So may I have a motion to authorize the solicitation of Mr. Blauer?
Yes, so moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Oh, Miss Lucarini's not here tonight, but as a result of the discussion that she spurred at the last minute meeting where we discussed the town's reduced funding from the county for the South Tower, I have presented a schedule here tonight that shows the original budget of $1.8 million, the current revised budget of $1.45 million, showing a $356,000 cost savings in the expected delivery of the final water tank on the Ulster Water District South Tower. The ARPA grant from the county was based upon 33% or max of 500,000. And since the costs are below $1.5 million, we will not be drawing the full 500,000 from the county. It currently stands at about $20,000. So we would draw 480 from the county of the 500. So if we save additional monies through economies as we progress on the construction, we will be losing 20 cents of funding from the county. So that is just a presentation.
I think that will resolve the concerns, because I think where the misunderstanding was, is people thought that every saving was dollar for dollar, the county wasn't gonna pay. So what I just want to reiterate what's being said is that this is a percentage of dollar, that it's what, if we save $1, they're saving 30 cents.
Mhm.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that is clear. That's not just all county money being.
Mr.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move forward with that. Mr. Berardi, can you convey to the board the process upon which you identified the items that you requested the technology grant and the outcome of that process?
Actually, I enlisted assistance of Lieutenant Safarth to come up with some needs for the department relative to the technology end of it. He had applied for that grant on my behalf through DCJS. We are awarded that grant earlier this year. In speaking to DCJS, it's currently no expiration date on the grant. Their only concern is obviously if we go 3 to 4 years without utilizing it, they're going to have a concern. And additionally, because part of that grant was to purchase a live scan fingerprint system, but we were in turn awarded a separate grant prior to that to purchase that. We are able to use additional money for any of the criteria that currently was on the initial grant to purchase anything else. So it can be dispersed. As long as it meets the criteria on the initial grant, the money can be dispersed.
We have received $70,000. At the present time, what is the intended use for that $70,000?
A drone, initial was to purchase a drone. Drones can be utilized to aerial views for crime scenes, accident scenes, search and rescue, things like that. The other part of it was there's a robot. They can be utilized on the half of emergency services, enter buildings where you don't have to deploy manpower initially. As well as part of that was to the live scan fingerprint system.
So
which
of those two items, how much of the $70,000 does that represent, and how much are you going to have left to spend on other essential needs?
$24,000.
Any questions for the chief?
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
If I can add,
Go.
Supervisor, my next thought would be, I'm looking at either doing like a fixed license plate reader of some sort, and to utilize that money on the avenue or the business district where we have,
We've talked about that multiple
yeah,
times prior.
over the years, we've discussed it.
That allows big brother or big sister to keep an eye on us better.
What's that?
Something, never.
Well, I would say surveillance cameras are more of Big Brother, keep an eye on us. License plate readers are definitely influential in helping to solve crime.
I fully support, it, fully support. it. You're only concerned if you get something wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
The next item on our agenda is a discussion. The town has received a request to provide a will serve letter to divert for sewer services for a new facility for the iPark campus. Mr. Majori, could you inform the board of our current status on capacity? And how would you feel about this as a new customer?
So the current town of Ulster sewer district is taking in around 1.2 million gallons per day. Our permit limit is 1.6 million gallons per day. We have the reserve capacity to take in this waste stream. This waste stream has characteristics from their pre-treatment that the plant can handle. So I don't have a problem with it.
What's the quantity they're projecting to send?
They're talking 75,000 gallons per day on average with a peak of 105,000 per day.
Your 1.2 million, is that the max you get at a time, or is that your average?
That's what our average is.
What is the max then?
So 1.3 for this year.
I mean, like, have you had a time and you've ever exceeded the 1.6?
No,
You've never seen it that high.
not in a monthly event. That 1.6 is our monthly average.
That's a month.
So on a peak event, say during a major flooding event, creeks
Right, yeah.
flooding, yes, we've seen over 1.6 for a given day, but never
But then
for
it
a
goes
month.
back down.
Correct. Yep.
What is our surge capacity?
Our plant is designed, most of the plant is designed for 4.5 million gallons per day peaking.
Okay, and every incremental capital improvement program that we have executed on is designed to do.
To increase our capacity, right now, my target is 5.3 million gallons per day for a peaking event,
The recent, the event, the device that was just installed,
UV system,
yeah, what is the max?
5.3.
Good. And then what you're looking.
And the target for a normal operation for that unit is 2.5 million gallons per day with a 5.3 peaking event.
Now, if they're pre-digesting, then you're not, the
Right.
digesting system won't matter.
It's just going to be like treating normal wastewater. The strength of their wastewater discharge from their pre-treated system is a concentration that we can handle with no problem.
Okay.
No, it's coming in similar to our plant influent, our normal wastewater. So the strengths are about the same concentration values as normal wastewater coming out of their pre-treated plant. They're going to have their own little plant on site.
Now, how would we charge them? You're gonna put a meter, because the typical.
This will
sewer
have a meter. Yes, correct.
Be metered and paid at the standard rates, or,
That's,
To be negotiated.
yes.
okay, but we would, because typically it's based off water consumption, so since.
This is going to be an industrial user.
Mhm.
So we will, because of their quantity.
Yep.
And their process classifies them as an industrial user. We have to issue them a permit. They call it a NIPDES permit.
Yep.
That's the town issuing that. So during that permit issuance, that's when we would negotiate pricing and et
That would be
cetera.
a metered flow. That's what-
That would be a metered flow. Yep, we will, because what they're doing, so I'll explain what that process is. They take in food waste from grocery stores. They depackage it, like Mr. Quigley was explaining. They then put a thick slurry into an anaerobic digester, and then they process that to strip off the biogas. They filter and scrub the biogas and then sell it back to the gas company,
Mhm.
to the grid, Central Hudson, whatever buyer That's how it works. Yeah.
So that empties into our system.
So then they are left behind with a supernatant, a filtrate that comes off of their dewatering process and flow liquid level that comes off of their digesters. And then they have to deal with the solids, the sludge that is broken down in the digesters. So they have to dewater like we do at the plant.
Mhm.
They have to get rid of that. They also have to get rid of the free water that they strip off. As they break down, think of vegetables. There's a
Right.
lot of moisture in there.
Right.
That water coming off, that has to go somewhere. That's coming to the sewer. After it gets treated. If it didn't get treated, it would be a much higher strength. And that would be outside of our sewer permits. So that's a
And you'll
different,
be able to check on these when you do this negotiating and you decide pricing and everything. You'll be able to check their system and make sure it's operating properly.
they've sent data already that I've reviewed.
No, but I meant like on a quarterly or a semi-annual, that if
That-
there's a problem at
That
their plant.
NIPD's permit
Yep,
that I was speaking
yep.
of, that's where I would lay out their testing that
Okay.
they would do, and they would have to submit that data to me.
And then they have to submit it anytime there's an issue or if they have.
Well, it would be on like a monthly basis, quarterly basis, whatever,
So
but
that
yes, we
you
would
can
keep
stay on
track
top
of,
that.
yep.
Right, you thought there was a inflow that was inappropriate. You've tested it to see if it met criteria.
I'm not sure I'm following what you're
Over
asking.
on the north side of town.
Okay.
You have in the past been able to test that, to find if that met our standards.
Yes, from a private user, yes, correct, that had a higher concentration than our sewer permits allow.
Okay.
Same.
So you can do the same in this.
We could because it's a localized discharge, but we wouldn't do that. We would make them do that in the contract. We wouldn't burden a town, exactly. We wouldn't burden the town and the town's staffing to do testing on a private property in a private system. But we would mandate that information. Yes. Any other questions?
Can you just give a brief update as to what your goals are in our upgrade program? As
So-
to the standards of wastewater that you're trying to achieve?
So there's a lot of stuff going on at the sewer plant. One thing is, we were talking about grants. I'm not sure if all of the board members are aware that we have secured, I applied and secured a grant with the state for an asset management program. I'm into that program right now. We're making good progress. That's part of establishing the life of the equipment, replacement costs, and, having a plan. That's underway. The secondary process that got installed in 1999, that system is at the end of its life cycle. That's my focus, was my focus for this year, that and the digesters, to upgrade. And, the UV situation that happened the last 2 years had delayed the digesters and the secondary process from getting the build out. I was hoping to be doing some of that work this year. We're looking at a secondary process that would future-proof our sewer plant so that any upcoming parameters that may be put on the town treatment because of the Esopus Creek as the receiving water, they're going to get stricter. They never get, less strict on the requirements. So in order to future-proof the town, that's what I'm working on at the moment. Some of the technology that I'm working on is a process called MBR technology. And the water will be filtered to the level and cleaned and purified to the level somewhat better than most drinking water. And in some areas of the country, go for direct reuse. So they literally take the water from the sewer plant and pipe it back to the water plant. And out west, where they have drought areas, they're recycling their water and they're losing only a small percentage. And they're preventing their communities from having severe drought issues. But that's the level of quality that we're shooting for right now. That will future-proof the town and can also increase the treatment capacity of the plant. So that's the secondary process. The digester process also is under that same drive to increase by technology that's available now to increase capacity and the quality of the product coming off the solids will be what they call Class A biosolids. Class A biosolids is what you get when you buy topsoil at Home Depot. So the big manufacturers that put stuff like that out are buying Class A biosolids. Sure. So that's what the project's currently going on at the sewer plant. That's what I've been working on.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So may I have a motion to authorize the issuance of a will serve letter?
Second.
Any further discussion on the matter? Thank you very much. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Van Cleek on town vehicle littering.
Send an email. Yes, I sent out an email asking for a list or to know what vehicles don't have lettering. And so I would like to make a motion that all vehicles other than the predetermined police vehicles that are owned and operated by our town be lettered, decaled appropriately to be identified as town vehicles. So I make a motion.
Go ahead. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chief? An update on the Lexipol policy manual and the Police One Academy software. We spent $50,000 on this. So
Yes.
tell
Yes,
us
you
how
did.
we're getting a return.
All the policies are currently been I guess merged, if you want to use that terminology. Currently, we just started, myself, the lieutenant and detective sergeant. Now the process is about reviewing them for accuracy. Spelling errors, if they fit our department regarding rank structure. There's 168 policies. So like I said, myself, the lieutenant and detective sergeant, have initiated this week to meet weekly to review a handful of policies a week in order to either make amendments or approve, so to speak, and to move those to be dispersed to the rank and file. The suggestion from Lexipol is not to issue 168 at a time to your members, because obviously that will fall on deaf ears and the accuracy of them reading them won't be there. So that's where we are at current time. We're still on schedule. We're hoping to be finalized by late this year, if not beginning of next year.
Okay, very good. Any questions on the implementation?
Does the personnel committee get a copy of those policies?
I can disseminate them to you when we're done. Yes.
That would be nice. Do you want me to do the spell check?
What?
A review of the records indicated that I believe the previous administration approved the prior version of the policy manual. And I know that as we changed policies over the years, those policies individually came to the board. So I mentioned that because in context of what you just stated, perhaps when the project is to the point that it can all be reviewed, that it be forwarded to the town board for adoption.
Yes.
Since you put so much hard work into it, we can all adopt it.
No, I definitely make sure you guys take a look at it. Obviously, they're all reviewed by lawyers that meet state and federal current case laws and best practices that have been seen across the state. So our hope is that it puts us way ahead where we were with our current manual.
Thank you.
While we're talking about manuals, Jim, I don't know where we went with this, but the townwide policy manual that was supposed to be disseminated out to the department heads and the different people. Do you know if we've done anything yet?
And may I have a motion authorizing the dissemination? And also in the motion, I would like to know, should we disseminate it in paper form to the employees or via email?
We talked about that. I think there's,
We did.
yeah, I think we should double check because I think the company that prepared it said that the first round should be in paper so that they sign that, but that in the future, then we should disseminate by digital.
Okay.
Is that what we talked about?
Okay.
Do you want to try it digital? I mean, he wasn't saying we had to, he was just
No,
recommending.
but there were so
District
many,
does everything digital, that's how it's
yeah, but there
tracked.
was employees that didn't have the digital needs. That's why it came up in the
Yeah,
meeting.
it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe I would take this. Let's send a letter to each town employee asking them to provide an email address for electronic distribution. Should they elect not to get electronic distribution, then we will make a paper distribution.
That
Okay.
works.
Motion,
Motion.
second,
Second, yeah.
discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it will
Thanks,
be
Jim.
done in the next couple of weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the period of time when the litigation begins for tax certiorari actions. August 1st is the deadline for plaintiffs to file their paperwork, and they have up till August 10th to serve the school district, which is the backdoor way of getting to us. There is a list in here of the tax cert cases that are on record as of Monday at the Ulster County Clerk's office. I don't want anybody to jump up and down at the number of cases here. Some of these are cases that are safety filings in 2024 because there are ongoing existing litigations that are in negotiations based upon previous conversations of this and decisions of this board. But it is worthwhile to note that iPark 87 has filed a tax certiorari action against the town for a reduction in value on the East Campus. So with that, this is a presentation only. There is no action that is required to be taken. It is just so that everyone knows what's going on.
I guess we're not supposed to become biased when we have future decisions relating to people who have names on this list.
That's
That's my-
personal biases are present in every decision.
Okay.
The next item on our agenda is a presentation of the report from Constellation. As I indicated during caucus, this is a report from Constellation that we purchased 100% of our electrical needs in 2023 from green sources. There is no action required on this presentation. Moving on to old business. The long-awaited adoption of the modification to the local law for Chapter 127 for the parks. This is the dog law addressing the allowance of dogs to be in our parks and regulating the lengths of the leash and imposing, I believe, requirements that the owners be responsible for cleaning up after the dog. So may I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
And I will second it.
Any discussion?
go for
Any
it.
further
Yeah.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a discussion on Xena Development. Mr. Kovacs. You received a copy of the letter submitted by the Woodstock Land Conservancy to the Woodstock Zoning Board. Would you care to comment as to how this filing may affect the town of Ulster?
Well, the current filing seeks to appeal the determination of the Woodstock Code Enforcement Officer to the Woodstock Zoning Board of Appeals. So the planning board may want to consider whether they wish to wait until the Woodstock Zoning Board of Appeals makes a final decision in this matter before moving forward with the application here in the town. Obviously, if the developer does not obtain all of their approvals from the town of Woodstock, the application here in the town of Ulster is moot. So that's a decision that the planning board will have to make at an upcoming meeting.
Okay, I will also make for the record an announcement that we received supplemental materials from Xena Development. They will be published to the town's website tomorrow. They address issues that were raised at the previous planning board meeting. and they provided some additional information supporting those discussion items. Moving on, Mr. Van Cleek, a report on Archtop's use of the town right of way.
Some of our department heads, specifically water, had a concern about the Archtop doing buried, application of their, fiber cable throughout the town. We had a meeting, which, Frank had initiated originally and followed through. We met with them at town, up at the highway department, 2 weeks ago. That expressed all the concerns about burying the lines, with the primary concern from John Rose being that we had heard stories in other areas and was concerned that these fiber lines would be buried near our water lines or meters or fire hydrants. And since the water lines are the number one reason why we dig holes in our town streets, it seems, because there's so many, what did he say, Frank? Was it 24 roughly breaks a year in water systems, right? So it appeared in that meeting that Archtop took it very seriously. They had 3 or 4 people there. But even more seriously, this past week, they met at Grant Avenue and Neighborhood Road. And that's why all the road is painted so much. But they walked the whole entire road, I think neighborhood from one end to the other, looking at meters, looking at fire hydrants, looking at where John's concerns were specifically. I think, Vincent, you've had no concerns where they were going as far as sewer goes, right?
They're mainly avoiding the blacktop areas.
Mhm.
So all of our sewer mains are out in the road.
Right.
So as long as they don't drill through a manhole, I'm okay.
And then Frank, you were concerned about their cutting the blacktop. Then they're doing basically all underground boring, correct? And John, when I spoke to him after the walkthrough, seemed very satisfied that they were staying away from the water system wherever possible, and where it was going to have to get involved. He was satisfied from how they were approaching it. So they seem to be fulfilling their commitment. Please.
So what does that do for everybody here, that Archtop fiber optics? What does that do as far as everybody's house and their service? That's what, because they
okay.
don't know what Archtop
Oh,
fiber
well,
optics is.
It's similar to Spectrum in that it's an internet providing company, but this will be fiber optic rather than the cable that is hung on there is some fiber cable hung on poles also.
Then we'll have
So-
more choices.
We could end up with multiple choices for how to get the internet, this is a problem that we probably ought to talk about at some point. We could end up with 3 or more utilities providing internet, which means we could have 1, 2, 3 hanging on a pole. We could have 1 on a pole, 2 on the ground, 3 in the ground.
No, no,
No monopoly, nope.
that's
So
my,
it'd be very competitive. So
is that something that's,
there's
Correct.
the other one. Yep.
but is that
Mhm.
something the town can ever use, Jim?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we've had extensive conversations to make sure that they get their cables past our facilities so that we can, use
For
it.
instance, the town, we use the number 1. Right now, the town has a 1 up, down, which is 1 gig. It's a lot.
Mhm.
They can multiply that by 10.
Okay,
And 1 gig is very fast. Most homes have 200. I'm forgetting what the term are, but fractions of that. So,
when I
That's
went to that meeting, I asked what it would cost per resident
Mhm.
approximate. I hadn't received that yet, but I figured I'd share it when I got it.
has anybody known anybody who got hooked up?
My son does.
Did you get it?
Archtop? Yes.
My son has Archtop in the city.
Yep.
And he gets about 2 phone calls a week from Spectrum asking him to come back.
We can block it.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Petremol, you did mention to me that there is going to be an ongoing series of walks to investigate the installation of other areas within the town.
Marked that they walk out at the key moving ahead. Got an underground markout request for all the neighborhood, grant to Lakes Mills Road. So we'll probably be a couple days, we'll have another set of markouts sent to us. And any questions, any problems or.
Okay, so we're going to keep up with this problem as it develops and prevent it from getting out of hand.
Right.
Thank you.
Thankfully, they've been having their problems. We weren't the first neighborhood, we would have wanted to have been to get this, the service first, but the blessing in disguise is that the problems they've had in other neighborhoods, they were very open in talking about the problems they've had and the remedies they've come up with of how to deal with it, so.
They never had any pre-construction meetings, but we had. Already in that. There were no pre-construction.
We're always the first. Thank you very much. Chief Berardi, on police services to the Kingston Motel, you informed us of certain actions at the last meeting. Could you care to update us?
Currently, last Friday, we, along with the Bruderhof and several county departments hosted a ice cream social, with games up there for the children. It was, definitely well received. Last night, along with the Bruderhof as well, hosted a barbecue, with games up there. Currently, I had received 2 donations, of, balls and outside equipment, one from Walmart and one from Mr. Stote. That have been delivered to the children up there. There's weekly activities going on, hosted by My Kingston Kids and One Strike Fitness, as well as tomorrow there is a kickball tournament that they'll be providing transportation to the children up there to Boys and Girls Club for the tournament, for the kids up there to participate in the tournament if they so wish. We are seeing progress. The playground is scheduled to be delivered on August 21st, with construction and assembly shortly thereafter. The county is working on putting up some type of tent or carport that they have available to them, just to have a covered area for out activities. Because upcoming events like board game nights and arts and crafts are definitely going to be able to be needed to be under cover should the inclement weather come. As we're still seeing calls for service, my expectation was not to reduce every call for service, but it was helped to promote positive interactions with my officers and children up there. And I think we are definitely achieving that.
Thank you.
Are you getting some cooperation from county services?
Yes, I've been working very closely with the County Youth Bureau. She is the one scheduling all the non-for-profits and the activities up there, as well as the county executive's office has been supporting moving the carport, as well as supplying, make sure there's DSS workers up there and things like that for resources for the adults to reach out to.
I would just encourage us, as we had that discussion at the beginning of the meeting tonight with the emergency services, that we would leverage every possible connection we have when it comes to cooperation or insert into the county to bring, when we have a problem like this, there was just a problem, which is smaller than countywide ambulance service, but
Most
it
definitely.
was a significant problem, and you brought people together. Town of Ulster led the way, you went up there, you got this resolved, you brought organizations, not-for-profits, the Bruderhof and other together to resolve a problem so far. I mean, we don't know if it's not fixed, but you're dealing with it. We had the issue with the roofing on that building, and it was brought to attention because you were concerned about it with the county's building, some stuff. So I would like us all as a board to keep considering, yes, we have to do things locally, we have responsibility, but we have to keep pushing the button on the county, finding what buttons to push and work our way through it. So thanks for that coordination.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tutt, the last issue is the roofing. I think you told us that in the caucus, and anything you want to add?
My understanding is that after the last meeting, an individual wrote an article. Thank you. After the article was posted in record time, he was contacted to inform him that they were not going to be working overnight. So it worked out well for everyone. I will say that the day after we had the meeting, my office was fielding calls about, when's this going to happen? And we passed them all along.
to the county department in charge, gave him the number. So it seems to have worked out to the benefit of the town and the residents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Article about the ambulances, please. Would you do that next? The mass population of the whole board meeting just left.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our scheduled agenda for tonight. We have a executive session on the agenda. I will open the floor to public comment on any topic that any individual wishes to speak about tonight. Anyone on any topic?
Make a motion, to go to executive session we have to give a reason. What was that?
It's in reference to the litigation of Mo's Motor Car versus the town of Ulster.
I know, I just want to make sure. it gets-
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. We will see you next month. Next meeting.